Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Sarah Jane from Misunderstood. Now today I'm going to talk about dyslexia and why it's so important to find out what type of dyslexia you have. Now dyslexia was first identified as a condition in 1881. This was only 11 years after education became mandatory. Dyslexia now comes under what's known as a specific learning difficulty. Now this is an umbrella term used to cover a range of difficulties. Research shows that it often runs in families. If there is one member of the family who has dyslexia, such as a child, then there's about 40% chance that the sibling of this child will also have dyslexia. There is also a 49% chance that a child who has been diagnosed with dyslexia will also have one parent with the condition. Now there are many skills affected by dyslexia: social skills, listening skills, comprehension, memory, navigation, knowing left and right, time management, also the distance of time, being able to know it's been 5 minutes or 15 minutes. So what is dyslexia? Now dyslexia is a learning difficulty which causes problems with certain abilities used for learning, such as reading and writing. It's a difficulty that puts barriers in the way of learning new things. It's not a learning disability, and your level of intelligence is not affected by dyslexia. Now within dyslexia there are 3 types of reading deficits. There's a phonological deficit, a speed naming deficit, and a comprehension deficit. Now approximately 80% of people who are diagnosed with dyslexia fall into the phonological deficit category, and 20% have problems with speed or comprehension, or in some cases both. It's these 20% that get missed because they can read, so they don't get noticed as struggling. There are also many subtypes of dyslexia. Now I'm going to talk about a few of the more common subtypes. We have auditory dyslexia. Now those with auditory dyslexia have difficulty processing the basic sounds of language. They have difficulty putting sounds together to read a word. They're likely to say biscotti instead of spaghetti. Now that's something that can be heard from a young age in some children, and it should be monitored. They can hear fine, but the brain just can't process the information in the same way as people without dyslexia. And then we have visual dyslexia. Now, visual dyslexia is a type of dyslexia that results from difficulty processing visual stimuli. Any processing issues are often the result of too much visual stress. There can be too much information on a page, so your sense of vision becomes overloaded and you can't take in the information. Visual dyslexia doesn't mean you can't read. And then we have phonological dyslexia. Now, this is the most common type of dyslexia, and it's characterised by a person's inability to sound out words. This type of dyslexia is what most people think of when they think of dyslexia as a whole, and it's a problem with both visual and auditory processing. Directional dyslexia. Now this occurs when people have a high degree of difficulty with reading, because when they read they can't distinguish between left and right. For those who have confusion over left and right, they often visualise something that they do with their right hand, such as hold a pen, which then tells them that that's the right side. Dyscalculia, which is maths dyslexia, is a type of learning difficulty whereby the person doesn't have issues with letters or words, they have issues with numbers. Now when basic number skills are not understood early, learning more advanced maths can be extremely difficult. Approximately half of the people diagnosed with dyslexia will also have dyscalculia. Now even though these are classed as difficulties, within the education system they're actually referred to as disabilities, and that's because these difficulties do disable you when it comes to education. Now with most people with dyslexia you will find a great discrepancy between what they can communicate verbally and what they can write down on paper. This explains why some dyslexics have difficulty with speech and listening, as well as with reading and writing. If we look at communication, it's defined as sending and receiving information through speech, listening, writing and reading. All of these are important for communicating and understanding messages. So a person with dyslexia has many problems when it comes to communicating, but it's never looked at as a communication problem. Now, there's also many common co-occurring conditions with dyslexia, and some conditions are more common than others. Now, the following are the most common. Dyspraxia. Now, this is a condition that affects a person's writing, and now that's something you can see daily in the classroom. Dyspraxia, which is a difficulty with movements and certain aspects of learning. A specific language impairment. Now, this is a condition that affects the way in which people communicate. People who have this condition often have difficulty talking to people and comprehending what's being spoken. And then we have ADHD. Now, most people know what ADHD is, but most do not realise it can occur hand in hand with dyslexia. So as we can see, there is so much more to dyslexia than the stigma of you just can't read and write. But how easy is it to be able to see and hear some of the difficulties in a child in the classroom when you know what you're looking for? Children need to have their difficulties identified at an early age so they can have the same chance as everyone else within education. And if no one knows what dyslexia really is, then how can we give these children any help? We can't. Well, thank you for listening, and I hope you've learned something from this video. You can leave any comments below. If you want to become involved and join in with a discussion about the videos I do, whether you agree or not, or whether you want to learn more, then you can use the contact form on the website or through Facebook. Share with your friends and subscribe to my channel. Give it a thumbs up and also press the bell to receive notifications of all new videos. Thanks for listening. Bye.